Hey everyone, my name is Lois and I run Lois Crochet, which is an independent crochet business. And if you follow me on social media, you may already know I really love Elden Ring and I really love crochet. And I've actually already made quite a few Elden Ring characters. But recently, I've really been enjoying their new game, Nightreign. So I thought, why don't I just make the Nightfarers? And since this was my first ever YouTube video, I thought, why don't I just make my favourite of the Nightfarers? Which is, of course, Duchess! So, without further ado, let's get into the video and I'll show you how I made her. So if you didn't know, Duchess is one of the 8 Nightfarers you can choose to play as in From Softwears' newest cooperative roguelike, Nightreign. Duchess is a dexterity and intelligence-based character who is very agile. Her abilities include Restage, which reapplies recent damage, as well as Finale, allowing her and her teammates to temporarily vanish. So when I make my dolls, first thing I will do is usually draw up a designing Procreate. However, I'm not doing this for these dolls as I can just go into the game and I can spin her around on the round table and look at her really easily. Next thing I'll do is come into my craft room and get all my supplies that I'll need to make her. So now I can go through all of my drawers and my boxes and pick out all of the supplies that I need to make Duchess. So this is everything I ended up with. There's some felt, some yarn and some thread in here. This is what I think I will need for Duchess. I will probably end up adding more to this, but this is the basic supplies for now. To begin Duchess, I first started by making her head off of camera and I used Stylecraft toy yarn to make her head. I then picked out these yarns for the arms and started working on them, first making Duchess's gloves before moving up to the gold parts of her arms and finally doing the dark parts with Lobelia Stylecraft yarn. I also added some small blue gems as the final details. I then quickly made her ears off of camera and I could start on her boots next. I used a dark brown for the boot part of the leg and then cream for the rest of it. And after I had finished that, I could make the second leg and then I could start adding details. The first thing I made to add were the tops of the boots, which I done in the same colour as the boots and just sewed around the top, leaving a little gap at the front. And then I also sewed some white laces onto each boot and I'm really happy with how they came out. I could then work on joining the legs together before starting the rest of the body in the same dark blue colour I used for the sleeves, and finally using cream and toy yarn to make the neck. So after I'd finished the body, I decided I needed a break, so I thought I'd play some Nightreign. I got this really cool weapon and I believe it's from the Kindred of Rot, but I just think the Ash of War on it, the spinning one, is so cool. So now that I've finished Duchess's body, I wanted to start working on some of the neck area details like her little tie and her collar, just because it will be a lot easier to do them now and sew them on without the hair in the way, and it's going to give the doll body a lot more of a Duchess look. So I'm going to go and start doing that. To begin the clothing detailing, I first made this little neck scarf and collar to sew onto Duchess, as well as this small gold embellishment. And these were really simple to make and I think they look super cool. The next piece I had to make was Duchess's shoulder pad and I sewed this gold embellishment onto it. It's a lot more simple than the actual design for it, but I really like how it turned out. After that I made 2 of these small black pieces, again with the gold embroidery on them, and they are going to go down the side of the neck as a sort of shirt collar. It was quite difficult embroidering these super small pieces, but for how it looks I'm super happy that I done it. So this next piece, I don't remember if I particularly like how I did it. I tried to sew them, I tried so many different ways and ended up on fabric marker and I'm not too keen on it. And after I'd done the detailing on the trousers and finished some of the body details, I wanted some time to sit and think about it, so I decided to start a new expedition. So after doing the details on the trousers, I decided I wanted to have a little break from doing the body, just because I don't know if I really like the detailing on the trousers. I tried it so many different ways and this looks the best, but I'm still not happy with it. So I decided I was going to work on her face and possibly her hair too. These are all the materials that I thought I would need for the face, and I began by marking out where I wanted the nose and sewed that on. Next up was her lips, which are really simple. It's just a few strands of pink with a black line through them to separate the lips. Next up was her mask, and I wasn't too sure how to do it. I decided to make it as a piece and sew it so it held the shape, and then sew some details on, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Although I will say she looks a bit strange right now. So with the mask all done, I will admit she looks a little bit scary. But I'm going to start working on her hair, and hopefully that makes her look a lot more feminine, a lot more like Duchess, and a lot less like a character from Hellraiser. And after doing some lovely crochet, I decided, why don't I just play Nightreign and fight the most disgusting, horrible boss in the game? Yeah, I'm talking about Dark Drift Knight. Let's just say this is my first time fighting him, and I got utterly destroyed. It was bad. Yeah, it was just embarrassing. So if you didn't know, I really hate making doll hair. I just hate making all the different strands, which is why Duchess's hair was so nice, because it has a thick back piece and only a few strands. After I had the main portion of the hair finished, I could then pin down her ears and work out where they would go on the hair. After I had the ears in a place that I liked them, I could then start pinning down the front strands of her hair, and I wanted them to be kind of messy and cover her mask a little bit, which meant I had to undo a few and add a couple more in. I done this just to stop the hair from looking very straight and neat, as I wanted a bit more of a messy look while still not being crazy. After that, I could sew all of her hair down and make sure that I liked how it was all sitting. And next up was her ponytail, which I'm making as a separate piece. So recently I've actually also made Ellie from The Last of Us, and her hair is perfect. I used most of it as a guide for Duchess, and I will be making Duchess's ponytail in the same way that I did for Ellie's. To make Duchess's hair, I first started with a short chain. I then made a longer chain off of this, and this will create the strands of hair. I could then repeat this process over again until I had 7 strands of hair. And to make this into a ponytail, it's super simple. All I had to do was roll it up and sew through the top to make it tight, and then I had a circular ponytail looking shape. I could then pin this down and sew it onto her hair, as well as sewing on her ears. I also sewed a brown band around her ponytail, however I have lost this footage. So blushing is just a super quick extra detail I like to add to my dolls. All it is that I get a makeup blush pigment and I slightly dab it on my doll's face to give them blushy cheeks, and sometimes I do it on their noses, and I just think it looks super cute and it gives the doll a lot more of a lifelike and cute look. Now that Duchess's hair is done, I'm going to go back and add some of the pieces I was meant to add earlier to the body, just like her buttons and her chains and her belt details, all just the little things that I didn't do earlier. And by now you probably know, before I started the next piece, I had to have a Nightreign break, and this time I was fighting a Crucible woman. So the first thing I had to add to finish up Duchess's clothing was these 2 flared out panels at the bottom of her jacket. I made these both separate. I made the smaller one for the top, and this was me making the bigger bottom one, and all I had to do after that was just sew them around the waist. I left a gap open at the front so you could see that they were flared out, and this is how they turned out. Next up, I had to make a few smaller pieces for the body. I made this row of buttons, her belt with this embroidery design put onto it, and also this little gold chain that will hang from her belt. And all I had to do after that was sew them together and the body was finished. Okay, so when I saw this Sanguine Snowball, I won't lie, I was so scared. I remember fighting one for the first time in the Elden Ring base game inside Mode's Palace, and they've murdered me. They've ruined my whole playthrough. But I was really happy that me and my teammate took it down so quickly. But seriously, I need to know, does anyone else suck at fighting them, or is it just me? The final thing I had left to make for Duchess was her cape. I decided to use felt as I wanted it double layered and also wanted a very jagged edge on it. I placed both pieces of felt on top of each other and then cut them out so the patterns would match. I then sewed around the edges with a blanket stitch as I wanted the cape to have a bit of texture towards the outside of it, as it was quite a plain cape. I tried to be as neat as possible with this stitching, but it could definitely use some work for the future. Once I completely sewn around the edge, I could then just go and trim any bits that were hanging off still. Before sewing the cape onto the body, I decided to sew it instead of gluing it, as I needed to sew the shoulder pad on top and I didn't want it to be hard. Making the shoulder pad was super simple. I just copied the pattern of the other shoulder pad in black and sewed some gold details on it before sewing it on top of the edge of the cape. Okay, so I've just finished the cape, which means Duchess is officially done. I'm so happy. I just love how she turned out. I'm so happy with her. Obviously, a lot more Nightreigns to come. So I wanted to take a moment to ask if you did enjoy this video, or you enjoy crochet content, or anything like that. Please think about giving me a like, a follow, sharing, subscribing, as it would really help me and it would really help my business, and it would honestly just mean the world to me. But without further ado, let's see the final doll. Duchess doll. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of the Nightreigns. And next up on my list is Recluse. I would also like to add, if you liked any of the things that you saw in this video, my Etsy will be linked below, as well as in my YouTube bio. But anyway, I hope you love the doll. I hope you have a lovely week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!